The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And A.J. Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
Right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixpack.net. With me as usual, my late co-host, literally late, A.J. Applegarth.
Late as usual, your co-host.
Yes. Yeah, should have said it that way. Anyway, what's going on?
Not much. Just switching up the station here a little bit. Get a little more.
I noticed
more view and a little less view, I guess.
Kind of like the other side, man. We had more sports pictures in the background, but it's all good. Whatever works for you.
I got to pimp my new autographed Brian Dawkins picture now. So, and my little Kona beer surfboard thing that I've had sitting in plastic for over a year since I've been to Hawaii. So,
all right,
anyway.
Cool. So, let's do some interesting news that dropped a few hours ago, and that is Raheem Mostert asking for a trade. I guess the 49ers and him have been in contract negotiations that haven't really gone anywhere, and now he's, trying to force their hand and get a trade. I mean, I don't really... Obviously, Tevin Coleman goes up, but, really, how much do we like Tevin Coleman, if Mostert does get traded?
I don't know. I mean, there's still plenty of backs there. I mean, you still got Jeff Wilson. You still got Jerick McKinnon. Brady is now gone.
Can run. He's still not cutting.
Get on a field. So, you have part of him, a torso.
I guess.
So, yeah. I mean, I like Coleman. I think he's familiar with Shanahan and his system. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah, I mean, they signed him to be the guy, and he just got hurt. So maybe he's finally going to be the guy. I just, I don't really trust him enough. So we'll see what happens. But, nothing set in stone. People just throwing names out there for teams, potential landing spots. But I'm hearing the Eagles is one. And honestly, as a guy who just took Miles Sanders in A, our contract league, B, Scott Fishbowl, I will be very, very angry if that happens. That's not going to make me too thrilled. So I don't know. I mean, besides your Miles Sanders shares, how much would you like Mostert being on the Eagles as a fan?
I mean, he's a talented back, but he hasn't really done much. He's had a half a season of statistics. So
yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't think he'd cut too much into Sanders' time. I think he'd be more detriment to Boston Scott. If anything. But, I mean, Eagles like stockpiling talented running backs. So it wouldn't surprise me. But, Richard made a good point that if they were really interested in trying to get another back, they would have just signed Devonta Freeman by now.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know how many people really want Devonta Freeman anymore. It doesn't sound like anybody does, but
yeah.
Anyway, so Scott Fishbowl, I mentioned that. How's your team coming along here? Kind of the quick recap.
I've only had 2 picks today. We were pretty dog slow this morning, and on my 6-11 and 7-2, I finally took a tight end and took Evan Ingram, and then on the turn I took Kareem Hunt. I kind of figured my 1-2 wasn't, or the 1-1 was not going to take a running back, but he ended up taking Swift and his first receiver. So I don't know. I like my team so far.
Yeah. So we're through 7. We've stalled at the early 8 here, but started off with Lamar and Miles and Drake, like I mentioned, and then came back around. Stafford, got A-Rob and Keenan Allen, and then tag team Lamar with Mark Ingram. So running backs went pretty quick in my draft. So Ingram was running back 26. Felt like that was a pretty good bargain still. I could have taken like Akers or Swift or somebody like that, but I feel like Ingram's going to have some massive games still. I know people like Dobbins a little bit, but I feel like this is still Ingram's backfield for the most part. So I'm happy there, but there's a little bit of a run on tight end that's looming pretty large here. A couple teams have taken 2 already. One team started off with 2, so it's kind of screwed things up. And then the team on the turn just now took 2 tight ends. And a bunch of teams don't have a tight end yet, except for the teams behind me. I'm in the 3rd pick. So teams 2 and 1 going behind me don't have a tight end. So I'm looking at almost at every other team that doesn't have a tight end will need one. And we're already 9 tight ends deep. So I might be really screwed here. Oh, well, such the risk. I thought about taking a tight end instead of Ingram, and it kind of took the risk that maybe like it wouldn't happen, but it looks like it will. I'll figure it out. So, all right, let's do our beer of the week, man.
All right.
Beer.
All right, so I'm drinking one that I've been holding in the fridge for a few weeks now. It's Crooked Crab Brewing Company, Snake Wrangler. It's a hazy, tropical, very hoppy IPA, 7%. It's very nice. It's malty too, so it's got kind of the thick taste to it as well. So it's a good flavor, man. I gave it a 4 1/4 on Untapped. I enjoy it.
Nice. Let me crack mine open and take a taste. See where we're at. The Reckless Ale Works down in Columbia, our friends. That we go to. Can't think of the name of it now, of course. Mercenary. It is their triple IPA.
Frisco.
Apparently, thank you, Frisco. I'm like, it's probably on here somewhere, right?
That's all good.
But yeah, they this is their 16-ounce triple IPA. So see how it goes.
Good stuff. Triple. All right.
Oh, that's pretty damn good. I don't think they're on Untapped though, so I'll have to.
No, they are. You got to find it. You got to look for it pretty hard though. But all right, well, let's jump into it. We got the AFC West tonight, but to bring our guest on. I should have asked for your last name before this. I'm gonna murder it, and you know it. I'm just gonna say Michelle, and you can help me out with his last name. Co-host of the Ball Blast podcast. Follow her on Twitter at BallBlastEM. How's it going, Michelle?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me. My last name's Magdziuk. It's pretty easy, actually. Ma and then jukebox.
All right. Yeah, no, that's way easier than it looks. Yeah. Not gonna lie.
There's a lot of silent letters.
I was thinking I was gonna ask you that, and then we had all the audio issues before the show that we had to get worked out, so I totally forgot. I apologize for that. So you're in Scott Fishbowl, and I reached out to you, saw you in my 1.3 group, and thought it'd be cool to have you on. How is your draft going so far?
I'm liking it. I kept getting sniped there in the beginning. Like, I really wanted Kenyon Drake in the second round. He went 1 pick before me. I settled with Josh Jacobs. But my running backs, I have Jacobs, Connor, Ingram. I like that group, Mark Ingram. I grabbed my 2 quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Kirk Cousins, which in this scoring format, Kirk Cousins is actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Got my tight end in Higbee. And then my wide receivers a little thin. I have Thielen and Parker. But I feel like in this format, that's okay. I'll pull it together with wide receivers.
Yeah, wide receivers. We were saying that on Monday. We did like a little special Scott Fishbowl show on Monday night. We all were saying that you can kind of wait on receivers in this format. Yeah. And it looks like everybody agrees. So.
Everyone knew that strategy.
Yeah, not a secret.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So. Everybody in my league went running back heavy, and that's why I only had 1 after 5-6 picks.
So, all right. So how we're gonna do this is we're gonna do the AFC West. We're gonna go position by position. We'll rattle off some ADP numbers currently, and then just kind of ask you questions. This division is pretty loaded, so we've got 1 per team. We don't have that with every division, so. Just kind of give us your opinion, and we'll just have some conversation here. Oh, if you want to share what you're drinking, I know I mentioned. So if you want to go ahead and share that.
I'm drinking 19 Crimes. It's a 28 red wine blend. It's really good. It's the only wine I really drank. It's this one. I haven't ventured off and tried different kinds. I just stick with this one pretty much.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
So. All right, well, so let's start here off with the quarterbacks, and obviously Patty Mahomes, number one. Oh, actually, no, sorry, we have a question first. So, I'm all off my game. Pat Mahomes, right? He's just signed this crazy $500 million plus contract. You know, I look at contracts like that, and I always think like, oh man, yeah, the guy absolutely deserves that money. He's amazing. But it's so detrimental to the team, in my opinion. Like these large, massive contracts. You know, we've seen it in the past with Aaron Rodgers. The Packers weren't really able to rebuild around him. Some teams can, but like in my opinion, you see teams like the Patriots who just kind of kept it going, and Tom Brady always kind of gave them discounts. And I think that was huge. Do you think Patty Mahomes getting this contract is ultimately going to be detrimental to this team? You know, maybe not this year, but maybe a couple years down the road.
I don't think his contract is that bad. It seems like so much because it's 10 years, you know, but I don't think it's that bad compared to other quarterbacks. And 5 years from now, what he's making per year is going to look probably like nothing because we've seen these quarterback contracts just increase so much. And if the salary cap keeps increasing, we'll see what happens to the economy with the pandemic. And if the salary cap does go down next year, I guess that would change some things. But I think it's going to come down to their drafting ability. And they have been a pretty good team in drafting. They just have to stay that way. And I think that's how a franchise can get away with paying a quarterback that way.
Yeah, I had that thought too, but it's still a lot of money. So we'll see what happens. All right, so back to where I was going. QB ADP here. We've got Patty Mahomes, number 1, Drew Lock, 23, Derek Carr, 25, Tyrod at 40, and then his partner in crime here, Herbert's actually 36. Maybe I meant to write 30. So Tyrod's 30, Herbert was 36. So the two Charger quarterbacks pretty much totally off the board here. So we already talked about Mahomes. I'm going to start with somebody different. You know, everybody loves what the Broncos did in this draft and this offseason, bringing in Gordon, drafting Judy, to pair, and Hamler, really, to pair with Sutton and Fant. Lock's ADP isn't really reflecting that, but could he be like a deep sleeper guy who could really just work out this year?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I don't think so. So I am off Drew Lock. I know people are very excited for his second year, and nobody would be excited for him if he never had that Texans game. He would be thought of in the same exact way that Haskins is thought of right now, where nobody really wants Haskins. And now Lock is everyone's sleeper, and I would say I'd probably rather Haskins, actually. And Drew Lock had one good great game in the NFL, and that still only turned out to be 23 fantasy points, and that seems like the best games he's ever going to have. And the other games, he had 12 points, 8 points, 11 points, 12 points. That was the rest of his games. He didn't even have 8 points. Sorry, he had six in one game. I don't see it with him. He doesn't rush. He's working with two rookies now. Is he always, like, especially this year, he's just going to come together and they're going to be great together? I'm not so sure about that. You saw Sutton's numbers decrease a lot with Lock. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think Lock's definitely an interesting quarterback to look at here. Like you said, he's with rookies. It's like, okay, well, the rookies aren't even going to have any kind of off season to deal with here. You have no way to even get any kind of rhythm with these guys until week 1, it seems like, because they're not even going to do a preseason potentially. So yeah, I think it's detrimental, but what are they going to all just get in a room and be like, hey, we're all young and let's figure it out? It's not going to work like that in the NFL. In college, maybe you can make that work, but I'm off Lock too. I have no interest in him this year. Maybe as a deep dynasty stash, but that would be potentially it. Anything you think of?
No, you guys pretty much hit it on right on. I just, maybe a 2 QB league as your second QB, but in your standard 1 QB league, I want really nothing to do with Lock. He might be a streamer at best.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so moving on here, we'll go to Las Vegas and talk about some Derek Carr action here. So do we think that Carr, and again, Michelle, this is a question direct for you, can Carr be at least a streaming QB play now that they've added Ruggs, they've added Edwards, they got Bowden Jr. there? He's got a lot of young weapons to utilize now on top of Waller, and Renfro's still there. So hopefully he's healthy and can get back into the swing of things there. Jacobs is young. I mean, there's plenty of weapons there. So what do you think with all these new young weapons?
Maybe he can be a streamer if you're really desperate on a bye week, and he's going against an easy pass defense. But I'm never looking to draft him later in drafts. What's his ceiling? His entire career in fantasy, he's been quarterback 17, 18, 19, 10, 14, 20. In that 10-year, he had Crabtree and Cooper both go over 1,000 yards. That's fantastic. But again, with those two great wide receivers at that time in 2016, he was still just a quarterback 10. I don't Ruggs and Bryan Edwards are automatically just going to be at the status that Crabtree and Cooper were in 2016. And if you're telling me I have to draft a player and his overall ceiling is quarterback 10, and his floor is nothing, I'm going to go with a guy that actually has potential to break out. We already know what Carr is. Yeah,
Carr is just a guy, in my opinion. He might be able to eat up some really bad defenses, but he's a dink and dunk guy. I'm not even sure if Ruggs is really a good player for him because he likes to run deep. He's a speed guy. I mean, Ruggs can obviously catch the little screen pass and make some plays, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough for Carr. So I'm off Carr, as everybody else should be too. So the next one's more, I guess, of a 2 quarterback super flex type question league. Yeah. The Chargers, right? They got Tyrod and they drafted Herbert. Everybody thought they might sign like a Cam or something like that, but it never happened. I mean, realistically, how many games do we think Tyrod's actually going to play this year?
I'm saying 3.
3? Wow. Okay. That's a lot.
Just like it happened with Cleveland. I think he's going to show that he's just a guy too. And if he even gets banged up for a second like he did in Cleveland and has to go out for one play, and the next guy comes in and shows anything, he's gone. But I don't get the point of the Chargers playing with Taylor. I keep bringing up Staley, but how far are you going to go with Taylor? He maybe wins 8 games. Even worse, he wins 9, and you go to a wild card and you get blown out, and then you have a late draft pick, and I don't really get it. And then you don't really see what you have in Herbert.
I mean, I guess the thought there is they've got a pretty good defense. They still got Keenan Allen. They still got Ekeler. Mike Williams is pretty solid. Hunter Henry. They've got a good team around him. So, if Tyrod can be at least average, I mean, how good is Rivers last year? He wasn't that good. If Tyrod
was so dead last year,
too. He wasn't good either. So they didn't win very many games either, but they won just enough to not get a super high draft pick. They got lucky that Herbert fell. I guess they did actually get a pretty high draft pick. But do you want Taylor to win 8 games? That sounds like the worst possible outcome.
I agree, but there's so many teams that do it. So it's just one of those, you want to win, you want to keep your fan base interested. Yeah, it's one of those things.
I'm watching Tyrod Taylor. You already have such a hard time. You're getting fans. Your fans coming to games, whether that happens this year or not, and then viewership. Who wants to turn on a game and watch Tyrod Taylor play? Not me. I'll do it, but I'm excited about it.
You're talking to 2 Hokies here.
I know. I was just going to say, we're both Hokies, so we have a soft spot for Tyrod, but also agree. He's just a guy. Honestly, if this pandemic ever goes away, which hopefully that it will at some point, and bars are open for good, you could walk into a bar in San Diego. Well, sorry, not San Diego, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and see these guys in Denver and have no idea who they are. Yeah. Because they're just guys. They're just going to be there to do what they can do.
I'm not sure I believe in Herbert either. I did not like him.
I like him more for fantasy purposes. If he plays, he would be a guy that I'm looking at in Superflex leagues, as my quarterback 3 to stash. Yeah. You can get him super late. I think with that rushing ability, I don't really care what he can do with his arm too much, but he does have a stronger arm. He reminds me, not directly, but a Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, where their rookie year, they were playable in fantasy. Yeah. Now, they weren't consistent, but they had big games, and I think that's what Herbert could be too. He just needs a chance to play, and he has all the weapons he needs around him. Like you said.
Yeah, I think the other thing to look at too is just strength of schedule wise. I mean, their strength of schedule favors more the passing game than the running game. They have a pretty nice schedule, especially for the wide receivers. So if whichever one of them gets in there and can actually throw it together, I think that they could succeed. But it might be too little, too late at that point. So, all right, well, let's finish up quarterback here. We'll start and end with Mr. Moneybags Mahomes. 2 quick questions. If you had to pick between Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, who would it be?
I'm going with Lamar. I chose Lamar in Scott Fish. I would choose Lamar in a super flex if I was going quarterback early in that first round. I think both are fantastic. Love Patrick Mahomes. Love him for fantasy. He's my clear-cut quarterback 2, and it's so close. I can't hate anybody if they decide he's the quarterback 1. Lamar just gives you that super safe floor week to week to week. He can have a terrible game, for his team and still be great for fantasy. I saw he did it last year a couple times where I was like, well, he's having a real bad game. He still scored 20 points. And then his ceiling's 50 points in a game. So I'm going to go with Lamar. Mm-hmm. Even if his rushing goes down, I think his passing attempts go up, and he's still going to be a great quarterback for fantasy.
Okay. So then the follow-up is, in a 1 quarterback fantasy league, are you taking either one of these guys at their current ADP in the mid-late second round?
No, I won't. And a 1 quarterback, I like to wait till the really end, 10th round or later. Guys I'll be looking at is Josh Allen if he lasted to the 10th round, which he probably won't, but Daniel Jones if he's there. And if I really want to punt the position and go in the 13th round, Gardner Minshew is actually a really solid choice. And I would be fine with him as quarterback. And a 1 quarterback. I end up streaming the whole year anyways. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and the Minshew mustache has magical powers.
You and the mustache. All right, you just ruined that conversation. We're gonna move on. All right, so we got running backs ADP here. We got Josh Jacobs at 10, Ekeler at 12, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 15. Gordon at 17, and then it drops Damian Williams 33, Philip Lindsay at 37, and then I paired Justin Jackson and Joshua Kelly at 56 and 68. Not really relevant for standard redraft leagues, but kind of there for your deeper in your dynasty leagues. Start off here with Kansas City, and Edwards-Helaire. As soon as he was drafted, everybody went absolutely bonkers after this guy. I saw mocks and early picks, early league drafts where he was late first round, early second round, and I was like, whoa, let's hold our horses here. Now that's kind of died off a little bit, but he's still pretty up there. We're talking late second, early third, probably in most cases at this point. Is he a little overhyped still? I feel like a lot of people think he's going to be this year's Kareem Hunt for that team. What do you think?
I'm on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire train. He is going early, so I'm not going to get too much of him because I wouldn't feel comfortable taking him until that turn, that 2-3 turn, and I would prefer to have him early third, and he's probably not going to be lasting there. But when you're looking at the running backs around there, I think it's fair. They all have their own risks. Damian Williams was really bad last year, no matter what anybody wants to say, and I know he had that one great play in the Super Bowl, and everyone wants to excuse his entire year. But he gained this is the most bizarre stat to me, he gained nearly 40% of his total rushing yards. 40% of his total rushing yards in the whole season on 3 carries.
Wow.
On the other, so he had 111 carries. On the other 108 carries, he averaged 2.8 yards per carry.
Oof. That's bad.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Yeah. He was only, so I did that for everyone. I took everyone's breakaway runs away, runs over 15 yards. He only had a better yards per carry when you take away all those breakaway runs than Peyton Barber, Frank Gore, and Tevin Coleman. And you have to remember, those guys had a lot more than 3 breakaway runs. So I'm taking away a lot more runs. I only took away 3 runs for him. He had 2.8. Only better than Barber, Gore, and Coleman. That's so bad.
Yeah. And Barber was timeshare. Gore was timeshare. Coleman, timeshare.
And they were all really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So
really bad is an understatement.
I I do like Dame a little bit more this year. I think that they're going to try to bring CH along a little slower. I love the draft pick, and I called it on the show live. That was phenomenal. Shocked the world. Just still pissed about it.
I am pissed. I still have a 6-pack, don't I?
That's good.
Yes, you do, actually. Thank you for reminding me.
That's impressive.
I will write that in these show notes. Joe.
He jumps on at the end of the draft, and we've all been a few of these deep. And he's just like, you know what? They're doing it. They're doing CEH. And I was like, what? No. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was like it was like 3
so
picks
mad.
before Kansas City was even close to being up. And I was like, they're gonna do it. They're gonna take a running back. And then right before they went on the clock, I think I said, calling it right now. They're going with Edwards-Helaire. And then it's like, oh, pick is in, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
I thought they might go Swift. I was surprised by Clyde Edwards' pick. I really liked him as a prospect. I was excited for him. I just didn't expect him to go in the first round, but I'm happy he did.
Yeah, I love the pick. I think Andy Reid definitely sees a lot of Brian Westbrook in him. So we'll see if that pans out or not. So, all right, well, let's move on to back to Vegas here. We keep hearing, but we want to see and expect that Jacobs is going to get more work in the passing game. I mean, is it going to happen with all of these new wide receiving weapons that we just talked about?
I don't know. I want it to happen. He's a great runner on the ground. He really, showed himself last year. He showed what he can be, breaking all those tackles and avoided tackles, the best in the league. I think he can be a league leader in rushing yards. That got me all tongue twisted. But with his targets, I'm not sure. Now, he had a fractured shoulder for about half the games he played last year. Yeah. Was that part of it? He wasn't really seeing targets before that, but maybe that's why they never increased. I'm not really sure, but they drafted Bowden, like you said, I think he fills the DeAndre Washington role. He left. And then why did they sign Devontae Booker? Nobody knows. But Gruden, I could see using him for no reason.
Booker's going to get 4 touchdown snipes this year and have 7 yards.
I know.
But somehow have a negative yards per carry. Watch.
I don't know what to do with Jacobs. Right now, he's my running back 13 in PPR, and I like him more than that. I just don't know how to increase his projections.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I do mine half PPR. That's where I start because of Fantasy Pros. And all my leagues, I've switched over to half PPR. So this is where I start. So I've got him 11. So I feel like if it was PPR, I'd probably drop him a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, his ADP is what I say it was 10. So, I mean, right around there. I mean, he's kind of spot on right where he's supposed to be going. But I think if I had him and a couple of guys behind him, right there, and I had to make a choice, I don't think I would take him just because you're looking for guys who can catch passes, and I'm just not sure where it's coming from this year. I mean, maybe he shocks the world and he gets Fournette 100 targets, but I'm not buying it. Yeah. I would not bet on it.
No, yes. I'm not either. I'm off of Jacobs this year. So
I'm not off of him. I'm not looking to grab him.
Yeah, he's got
off his ADP.
Yeah, he's got to fall a couple guys. Yeah, in my opinion. So, moving over here to LA, we've got Austin Ekeler. He was just absolutely amazing last year. Obviously, in the beginning of the year when Gordon was out, he was RB 3 or 4 or something crazy like that. It dropped, fairly decent once Gordon came back, but he was still really, really good. I don't remember exactly what he finished. Now Gordon's out of the picture. We know that. They do have these, the second year and the rookie who some people think are going to be, taking over the Gordon role, one or maybe both of them combined. I mean, how much does that matter for Ekeler, and can he be better this year without Gordon there?
I don't think there's any being better. I mean, he was pretty great last year, and I think his targets do go down by a chunk. He still will be one of the most targeted running backs in the league, but I think it'll still be around that 80-90 range instead of that 100-plus range without Phil Rivers there. Rivers he passes to the running back nonstop. He's a statue back there. And now no matter what quarterback you have in Tyrod or in Herbert, you have guys that would prefer to scramble and run out of the pocket when they're in trouble instead of check down to the running back. So I do think his targets go down. He'll still be used in that way. It's just going to go down. But I think his rushing attempts will go up. I have him just over about 200 carries. I think that's doable for him. I think Kelly and Jackson will have their roles, but I don't think it's going to be too big of roles, and I think they'll be splitting.
Yeah, I think Ekeler's still going to be good, but as I was trying to allude to a little bit earlier, their strength of schedule, per Pro Football Focus, it was not very good. They're basically in the bottom 10 of teams. They start off with a pretty decent schedule, but then it gets tough for another 3 games. It's kind of good. And then it just is really mediocre. The rest of the way, they really only have one game that's a really good game in week 12. So I think that's going to hurt them a little bit, especially with him being the go-to guy. I know he was to start the season last year, and he was still productive when he finished out with Gordon back in the fold. But I like Ekeler this year, especially after that one tweet went out saying, I can't remember what it was, but it was, I was like, well, everybody in Scott Fishbowl is going to be on him now because of this. So, yeah, it was kind of funny.
Yeah. He says that's his ball out, which is so true. That's all he does.
Exactly.
I know what tweet you're talking about. We won't mention names, but yeah, just move on here.
So back to his old barrier mate there, Gordon. Stayed in the division, but he went to Denver. Do you think Gordon can replicate the same types of seasons he's had with the Chargers when he's been on the field?
No, because again, it comes back to Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers uses his running back so much. Last year with Drew Lock, it's such a small sample size, so I don't want to say anything for sure. But in those 5 games, Freeman's and Lindsey's targets went down by a good chunk when Lock was in the game compared to Flacco. So I don't know if he's going to use Gordon as much. And I do think Philip Lindsay and Freeman being there, Gordon's not going to get all the touches. And I guess he had to share with Ekeler before. But, I mean, Gordon really only had 1 year with any efficiency. Besides that, he was always under 4 yards per carry. Yes. I'm not sure going to a new team, the Broncos line isn't some amazing offensive line. I don't see how his efficiency just jumps back up. I think that 2018 year was just an outlier because it's always been 3.5, 3.9, 3.9, then 5.1, and then 3.8. Him getting older, he gets injured a lot. I'm probably not going to touch him. He could be a steal in drafts, but there's too many other guys I'd rather have. I feel like I've been very negative on this conference or on this division.
No, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying there. I actually wrote the Broncos the Broncos preview. I don't know.
No, you had
I wrote something about Gordon. Oh, it was a Fantasy Pros article. I wrote something. It was the biggest bust or whatever, and I picked Gordon out of the top 60. It was a guy, not a biggest bust, but it was somebody you won't have at their current ADP. And I want nothing to do with Gordon. I get RB17, who you're really getting. That and he's got history of being productive, but if he's not scoring touchdowns, and I'm not sure the Denver offense is going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns, I don't see him replicating any of his success in the past. I mean, like you said, it was all Philip Rivers, just carrying that offense down the field. Him and Allen and Gordon just getting a lot of goal line, red zone work and just pounding it in. He was super inefficient his entire career except for 1 year. So, yeah, it's spot on there. I totally agree with everything you just said. So. All right. So before we continue to our receivers, we are giving away this week and next week, the last 2 weeks, a footballguys.com subscription. And this week we had a contest where we had people just randomly give us sleeper picks for the division. I did a randomizer using the 100-yard dash program. I don't know if you guys have ever used it, but it's fun to do. It's more for picking draft order, but I did it for this because we had 12 entries, so it was perfect. But at Dr_Pra, Dr. Pra, I'm guessing, or Drew Pra, I don't know what it is anyway. He said Mike Williams will explode wide receiver 1 results rest of the season once Herbert takes over. Elite arm strength plus strong contested catch rate plus trailing lots of games equals DJAF results. All right. I like it. So congrats, Drew. I will be messaging you, DMing you on Twitter. I need your email to pass along to the guys, and we will get you set up with that subscription. So be on the lookout for that. I'll DM you after the show. And all right, so wide receivers, ADP. There's a bunch here. Obviously, Tyreek Hill leads the way, number 3. Sutton 16, Allen 19. Mike Williams, big drop here to the next set of guys here, but Mike Williams 41, Jerry Jeudy 44, Mecole Hardman at 47, Sammy Watkins at 49, and then Henry Ruggs and Renfrow at 53 and 64, and then his other teammate Ty Williams at 69. So the Raiders, in my opinion, they surprised everybody in the draft, taking Ruggs as the first receiver off the board. I also kind of find it interesting that both him and Renfrow are ahead of Tyrod Williams in ADP. I'm not sure I'm buying that yet.
As they should be.
So
what do you want from Tyrod Williams?
I don't know. He's not good, but like rookies, look, Renfrow was all right last year, but he was all right, And then Ruggs, he's a rookie who's not going to get an off season. So okay. I don't know.
I'm just saying to go buy them, but I'm definitely not drafting Tyrod Williams.
I'm not drafting any of them.
Yeah, if I had to draft one, it would actually be Bryan Edwards, the 3rd round draft pick. I think he's more of a true wide receiver 1. In the way that Anthony called CH to Kansas City, I called Henry Ruggs to Las Vegas. Called that. All right. I knew Ruggs was going to be the first Fed receiver off the board. Everyone wants to be the next Chiefs. They want their next Tyreek Hill. I think that's what they're trying to do here. I mean, he didn't put up production in Alabama. I know he had a lot of competition there with targets, but normally if you don't produce in your college offense, you don't really put up numbers in the NFL. We'll see what happens. I'm definitely not drafting him his rookie season. If I miss, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. So that pretty much answers the question. You don't expect a whole ton of him in year 1. Yeah. So elaborate a little on the Bryan Edwards thing.
So I like Bryan Edwards' tape. I thought he should have gone earlier than the 3rd round. I thought he should have been a 2nd round pick. He looks like a true wide receiver 1. And I think the way that Ruggs is going to help this offense the most is that he's going to get players open. His speed is going to get players open. I don't know if it's going to impact his numbers and he's going to get a ton of targets, but I think it's going to open up everyone else. So I always said the wide receiver that got to play across from Ruggs is going to be great. So I thought he would have been great in San Fran with Debo. I thought Debo would have really succeeded with Ruggs there. So now with Bryan Edwards, I'm sure it'll take time. He's a rookie like the rest of them, but I really like Edwards moving forward with Ruggs on the opposite side with that speed.
Yeah, I'm a believer in Edwards as well. I think he was a solid ad for them. He just seems like a pure receiver too. 6'3", 215, not super beefy, but good size for a receiver. So I like his upside.
When he's playing, he's strong.
Yeah.
I actually like Renfrow. Do you guys like Renfrow?
I loved him coming out of college. I mean, I watched him a ton. We're, obviously we're Virginia Tech fans here. Both me and AJ both graduated there. So I watched a lot of ACC ball. The dude's just always around when you need him. Like, it's crazy. So I loved him coming out of college, and he was a big-time sleeper, deep pick for me in rookie drafts last year. Got sniped by a couple friends in my leagues that I accidentally told that to, and I'm pissed. Keenan, if you're ever listening. So
I think he could end up in that core having the most fantasy points. It doesn't mean it's going to be a ton, but I think in 2020, I wouldn't be surprised if Renfrow was the best wide receiver on that team in targets and in yards. He saw a ton of targets last year before he got injured, and that was his rookie year. Carr clearly had a connection with him. I like Renfrow late. He'll be a target of mine and Scotty Fish if I can get him.
Yeah, I mean, Carr, the one thing with Carr, he doesn't like to throw downfield, so he likes that easy completion, and Renfrow plays that slot, just give me the ball, figure out things later type of guy. So that's exactly why I like Renfrow, especially in PPR leagues. He's just going to rack up points.
If Carr's even strong enough to throw downfield.
We don't know anymore. He doesn't do it. So, all right.
All right, so moving back into the LA Chargers here. So Keenan Allen, post-injury years, I mean, this guy's been one of the most reliable receivers in the NFL. Of course, that's obviously with Phil Rivers, who we've been talking about. But do you think that he can still be as good with Tyrod or Herbert combining to throw the ball to him?
The real question is he that reliable? He is maybe for the Chargers, but in fantasy, he is always super hot or super cold. He has these strings of games where he's just the best in the league in fantasy, and then he has a string of games where you're like, I don't even know what to do with this guy. I don't even know if I can roster him. Like, this is how bad he is. I had actual questions last year because I get questions every week asking what to do with their rosters. A lot of them were like, Keenan Allen, like, I can't even start him anymore, right? Because he was so bad in the middle of the year. And that's why I feel like he does that every year. He has some really great games and a string of really bad games. This will be his very first season in the NFL without Phillip Rivers because Rivers was always healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrod Taylor makes me feel a little bit better with Keenan Allen, but if he gets benched for Herbert, I have no idea what that connection is going to be like. So I've been saying this a lot, but I'm going to stay off of him. Apparently, I'm staying off of all the AFC West.
Everything AFC West.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're wrong because I took him as Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah.
I don't know. I took him as Scott Fishbowl. Different strategy there. Obviously, half PPR and they get the half point for the first down. So he's a first down monster if he gets to the targets. So that's kind of why I went for him. Otherwise, I would have taken some other guys. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with you that he does lose quite a bit without Rivers there. I mean, Rivers, as we've mentioned before, Rivers was just kind of a steady person in that offense. He was obviously declining the last couple of the years, but it just he knew the offense, the players knew him. It was just comfortable, and everybody could just contribute and do what they needed to do and produce. Even if it wasn't a super high level, it was good enough to be fantasy relevant. So
yeah,
I'm a little down on Allen. I'm not totally avoiding him, but he probably won't be a super target for me.
I think Mike Williams with Herbert could be really interesting.
Yeah, hey, you and our winner.
I'm not even a Mike Williams guy at all. Like, I was hating on him pretty hard last year. I was known as a Mike Williams hater last offseason. I was telling everyone not to draft him. But I was actually kind of wrong at the same time as being right. I mean, he was terrible for fantasy. He still put up 1,000 yards. He just didn't score touchdowns. So I was wrong while being right. I'll admit that. I was wrong, but also...
he was being overdrafted because he had that one.
Yeah.
Season before, he scored 10 times, right?
He had ridiculous end zone numbers.
He may have been like 11 or 12. I don't remember how high it was.
It was so high.
4th and 5th round last year.
Yeah.
And that's why I was the hater. I'm using quotes here.
Right.
Oh, never hate the player. I hate the cost.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And now his cost went the complete opposite way where he's going like the 11th round now. Now I'm like, okay, that's when you take a chance on a guy with talent. Like, that's when you take that risk. It's not last year when he's going in the 4th and 5th round.
Yeah, ADP of 41 in half PPR league. That's pretty amazing for a guy who put up 10 touchdowns or so, whatever around that number, just 2 years ago. I'll take it all day.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to me, Keenan Allen is the bag of Cheetos and the warm fuzzy blanket that you get for movie night. I want nothing to do with him in fantasy. I don't know why. I've just never been a fan of his. I don't think I even ever owned him in his injury years. It was just, he's an injury guy. I don't want anything to do with him. But then he shows up and he plays well, or had with Rivers. But I'm tentative to go after him this year.
He started with 3 massive, insane games, and I think that really his overall ending, and it makes him look much better than he was, because there was so many games where you put him in your lineup and he lost you weeks. Like, as much as he helped you win weeks and earlier in the season, he lost you weeks later on, and he does that all of the time, a lot of years.
Can I go back around and redo my Scott Fishbowl pick? Man, you're making me feel real bad about this one.
The first down,
nice pick.
He will be the first down target. It'll be fine in the scoring format. I think
everyone in your divisions,
pat my back.
Thank you.
It'll be okay. It's all right. All right, let's move on here. Kansas City, Tyreek Hill, obviously the big man on campus here in the AFC West when it comes to receivers. He was a bit more consistent last year, I feel like, but in years past, he's always big boomer bust guy. He was a little bit of that last year, but again, he kind of leveled off a little bit more. He still had his massive games, but his low games weren't as bad, I feel like. I mean, are we expecting more of that? Or are we expecting him to kind of go back to super boom or super bust?
I really like Tyreek Hill moving forward. Last year was his second season with Mahomes. He was hurt pretty often. Like, he got a couple injuries throughout the year, was dealing with those. And he only had 2 games, 2 of his, 10 games I think he played, with fewer than 5 receptions.
Yeah.
2 of the games that he played at least 18% of the game, because there was a couple games there where he played for like the first second and then he left with an injury, which would have killed you, which stinks. But if he stays healthy next year, a 3rd season with Mahomes, I think the connection is going to be great. He put up 860 yards and 7 touchdowns in 10 games. That's pretty great. That's good numbers. That's if that's 16 games, it's going to look beautiful at the end. I love anyone connected to Mahomes, really. Like, you can even talk me into Sammy Watkins, which I know I shouldn't be. So I'll buy Hill at the wide receiver 3 spot. I think that's fine.
So are you taking him the number 3 receiver?
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
Okay.
Like, I want Thomas, I want Adams, and then he would be right there in discussion with like a Julio. Yeah, Julio's very robust too, so I would take Hill.
Yeah.
Julio's big problem is never gets in the end zone. He's a 20s to 20s guy, or really like 2-yard line to 2-yard line, I feel like. So, all right. So the last guy we got here is Mr. Sutton in Denver. So we've seen his ADP drop from early 2nd round all the way down to early 4th. I mean, do we know why this is happening?
Yes. We do know why.
I feel like you've already said this.
I know.
I'm reading this. I'm like, why am I even going to... How can I phrase this without trying to say, it's Drew Lock, duh.
Honestly, I can't believe he hasn't gone further than the 4th. I won't even look his way in the 4th round. He was not good for fantasy with Drew Lock. That's just all it comes down to. I know it was just 5 games. But in those 5 games, he was on pace for 128 targets. In the 11 games with Flacco, he was on pace for 125 targets. So he was still on pace for the same amount of targets. The difference is with Flacco, he was on pace for 1,210 yards, and with Drew Lock, he was on pace for 890 yards. That's a big difference in receiving yards. The depth of targets was just completely different with Lock versus Flacco. So it's not that he wasn't getting targets and maybe next year he'll get targets. He was getting targeted. He was on pace for 128 targets. But for him to be a good fantasy option next year, you need those targets to increase by a good chunk, or you're going to get 890 yards from him. And he's not like this big touchdown guy, even though he's a big body, which is confusing. So I don't see it happening for him with all the additions to the offense. They're still rookies, but Judy's going to get involved. Hamler's going to get involved. Fant, and then you have Gordon there now. And how are his targets going to increase? I don't see an opportunity there.
Yeah.
I like Sutton the player. I don't like the offense he's in, and I think that's kind of the reoccurring theme of this show is Denver's kind of. It's all Lock needs to take a big step forward for this offense to be productive. These guys are going to have their games, obviously, because everybody does when they have talent. But getting consistency out of them is going to be the problem. So
Lock, not Luck. I wish it was Andrew Luck.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Can they just go get him?
Yeah. Drew Lock had one of the lowest average depths of targets in the whole league. I think he was only behind, or only ahead of, I guess, Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, which those two great players are great. So his playmakers are really going to struggle unless they're really good after the catch. And that's not something that Sutton excels in. I think that's something that Judy could be great in. He can bring a lot of them to the house. But his average depth of target is so low that Sutton's going to need so many targets to be great.
Yeah. I was in a 5-step drop, and I threw it to the 3-step drop.
Yeah.
What?
through a mid-drop. Is that possible?
Yeah.
I have no idea. All right, I'm making up stuff here. All right, let's finish up here with tight end. This is probably going to be the only division where we actually have 4 questions about the tight end, because I looked at this and was like, oh, wow, because we've had like 1 or 2 so far. So
Yeah.
it's been real short the end, but this one won't be, unfortunately. So not that I don't love talking to all of you, but I'm sure people like to keep it under an hour, but we always go over, but it's okay. All right, starting off here. Kelsey 1, Waller 5, Hunter Henry 6, Fant 12. Kind of the same question we had before with the quarterbacks here. You know, there's a big debate between who's the top tight end, Kelsey or Kittle. Who's your thought here?
I am close, but Kelsey's still going to stay in that top spot. All he does is end as the tight end 1 year after year after year. He does it. I'm not going to say he's not going to do it, because that would be foolish of me. So Kelsey connected to Mahomes. He's this guy. He's going to score the touchdowns. I do think Kittle's going to be fantastic this year, so I'm not going to be upset if I missed out on a Kittle and I had to grab a Kittle, or missed out on Kelsey and had to grab a Kittle, especially with the Debo injury. Like, Kittle was already the main target in that offense, but now even more. I'm still sticking with Kelsey, though. The offense is just better, scores more points. Kelsey all the way.
Tend to agree.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I like Kittle more this year for some reason, but overall and body of work, I still think you got to give it to Kelsey. So, all right, so moving over to Darren Waller. So he was definitely a target hog last season with 117 targets. I mean, do you think he can even get even close to that with, again, the various weapons that the Raiders have added, including a healthy Hunter Renfrow?
I don't know if he's going to hit 117 again, but I do think he can get very close to 100. And I think that's okay. And I still think he can be a top 5 tight end in that way, because he only scored 3 touchdowns last year. So if those just increase to the normal like 6-ish that he should have got, and he could end up scoring a lot more. He's a big body tight end. He's targeted a lot. That was wild. He only scored 3 times last year. I think he can lose a decent chunk of targets and still be very good for fantasy as long as those touchdowns increase. Hopefully Witten doesn't take too many of those targets or end zone targets. But I'm still a big fan of Darren Waller this year. Like I said, we can't just count on 2 rookies coming in and grabbing all these targets away from established vets that have been there.
Any thoughts on Waller, Joe?
I mean, yeah, I actually have forgotten about the lack of touchdowns, because my initial thought coming into this was that, he will lose targets and therefore his value will go down. But I mean, if he can score, 2-3 more touchdowns, it's going to make it up, So I think he'll be okay. I've still got him, top 5-6 tight end. And I think that's okay. I'm probably passing on most of these, first half of the ADP tight ends in the top 12, just because there's a bunch of guys behind them that I think can either jump them or be almost just as good. But if you snag Waller, I have no issues with that, honestly. Yeah. So
he hung around. I was going to say he hung around till the 605 in my Scott Fish division. It's been very tight end slow. So I don't know if everybody's just on the board of, hey, we're just going to wait and get people late unless somebody we really want falls to us, or what. But that's kind of what I did with Ingram. I was like, I'll take him.
Ooh, and I am up in my Scott Fishbowl League.
Oh, live pick.
It flew.
On air picks.
It flew.
I was up just a few minutes ago, and I picked without you guys knowing. But I went with Deontay Johnson. I went with a Homer pick. Homer Steele.
Nice. What route are you in?
903. Took him.
Okay, so you're just ahead of me. I'm at the 810. I'm so the tight end run did not happen. So it stopped with Hawkinson. I'm so tempted to grab Hurst here because it's going to happen.
Hurst went right after me when I picked Deontay, and it kind of hurts. Hey. But no, I didn't mean to actually do that. But I don't know if I'm going to regret that decision. I already have Higbee, and I needed a wide receiver.
See, I don't have a tight end yet, so Hurst would be my first.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a no-brainer pick for me.
Hurst is the first. I mean, it rhymes. It makes sense.
I mean, we've got it.
You're in the 8th round. I don't know.
I just wrote an article on ballblastfootball.com about why Hayden Hurst will be the next breakout tight end. So everyone go give that a read. I put some good work into it, but if you want to go read it now too, since you just picked Hurst to pump yourself up.
I'm working on it. We got about 10 minutes left in the show, not even. So we will. I might just. I don't know.
You will pick on air, all right?
Fine.
Pick on air. I mean, we already know you're taking Hurst. Come on.
I don't know. We'll see. I gotta look to see who else is actually available. I haven't looked in 6 hours because the guy. Because the one guy didn't pick forever, so I do at least need to give myself a chance to look at who's available.
I think you should. You should give yourself the chance.
I mean, Devontae Parker stared at my face.
Jeff's chiming in. What are you saying, Jeff?
I wish I went Hurst.
Wait, kind of. 6 tight ends just went leading up to you? Is that what you said? Oh. But you're at the turn, so you can take 2 of those 3, and hope Jace was Sternberger. Is that his name?
God, don't go with.
No, what's wrong with you, AJ?
I'm just saying. Hopefully, he makes it back through this run. Now looking at the PFF tight end ranking here, and I feel like these charts are a little older, or they're just straight up different. Probably better than Fantasy Pros, but I don't know. I mean, Hurst wasn't getting a lot of love. They have Atlanta ranked dead last in strength of schedule, and is talented and as good as Austin Hooper was last year for them, and everybody's buying into this Hurst, including myself. I love Hurst this year. I don't know. I see these reddish yellow colors on this chart now, and only a few greens. I'm like, oh.
They know how to get the tight end in the right spot, though, in the zone, and I think it's going to be okay. True. Do you know how many times Atlanta asked Austin Hooper to stay in and block, to pass block? 35 on the entire season. 35 times. They had 744 passing snaps, and only 35 times he had to stay in and block.
You gotta wonder if that's gonna matter. That's gonna change now, though. That Gurley's there. They have a real running back to use. That could change. And Hurst can really pass. Hurst can really block. So that could change. But I still like Hurst a lot. I mean, my other options are Cook, who I like, big touchdown dependent guy. Gronk, I can't do it. Austin Hooper, I don't like him going to Cleveland. And then I'm looking at the Jarwins and the Doyles and everybody else that Jeff just said he hates. So I feel like I've already talked myself into Hurst.
I would, I mean.
All right, let's do the next question, and then I'll pick.
All right.
Hunter Henry, he's got a lot of talent, right? We all like it when he plays, but his problem is playing, right? And then, of course, the new quarterback this year, I feel like Tyrod's kind of indifferent to the tight end, but he's okay with it. I mean, do you trust him enough to take him as the tight end 6?
The only reason I don't trust him is because of A, injuries, and then B, if Tyrod Taylor does get benched. So it keeps going back to that, who's the quarterback? But Tyrod Taylor did make Charles Clay a thing in Buffalo. He's an actual fantasy tight end I wanted. At that time, he was really good for fantasy, actually. So if he can make Charles Clay a thing, I feel like he could use Hunter Henry. I will say that I think it was 2015. After the 2015 season, I would have to go back. I traded George Kittle, young little rookie George Kittle for Charles Clay, straight up.
Oh,
yeah.
That hurts.
Please tell me that was a redraft.
In a dynasty league.
Ooh, brutal.
Yeah, that was really stupid.
I mean, we can't predict the future. We're just out here playing this game for fun. And
it was one of my first years in dynasty. I wasn't doing stuff. I wasn't watching film, so I was stupid.
You want to hear something funny about? So I have George Kittle in my dynasty league. My dynasty league is not, to me, it's not a real dynasty league. we keep all the players, but like it's not deep enough. So my league like basically likes players on the waiver wire available every year. Not to where it's like redraft, but like we only have 25 roster spots, which just isn't enough in my opinion. So there's just too much out there, and nobody goes hard at the tight end. So in the third year or whatever it was of the league, like my tight end was dead, and I looked out there, I was like, oh, who's here? Oh, this George Kittle guy's been pretty good. Let me pick him up.
Oh,
he was available, and I was like, and obviously he became amazing. So I'm like, yeah, I've got my tight end forever. So.
I picked Darren Waller up in almost every dynasty league I'm in last year off the waivers super early, and then traded him before the season in every league. So
you gotta stop trading tight ends. There's the moral of the story.
Yeah, I do.
All right, I'm gonna pull the trigger. I will absolutely go Hayden Hurst. I gotta do it. I gotta go with my gut. And then hopefully
get your guys. I mean, we've been talking him up so much this year. It's hard to
know. I mean, there's a couple other guys I like. There's, but I've got 3 receivers or 2 receivers. I've got 3 running backs. I've got two quarterbacks already. I needed the tight end, and I was not expecting Hurst to come through 1, 2, 3, 4 teams who did not have a tight end to get back to me. So I'm pretty shocked. I could actually go tight end here if I really wanted to, and I might, but. Probably won't. I think I'm going to grab one.
Is this around the time in our mock when I went Gesicki? Did I go Hurst Gesicki on you?
Did.
In the mock?
You totally did to me. Yeah, this is why I don't mock with any of my friends, because they all like snake me. Jonathan Chan, if you're listening, you also, buddy, did the same thing to me in the other one, and they get a kick out of it. It's funny, but yeah, it's great. It's good thing I don't draft with you for real in Scott Fishbowl. All right, Last question, AJ. Let's finish this up.
All right. So Noah Fant. He was such a huge tight end prospect last season, as it seemingly every year these rookie tight ends are. But he mostly struggled. I mean, do you see a bigger second year jump for him, or with these nice rookie receivers and Locke, sitting down at last call at the bar in Denver?
I feel so bad. I keep going into Locke here. He seems like such a sweet kid. He seems like I'm rooting for him.
No, he's rapping on the sideline.
You, sir, are a nice guy, but I hate you.
Looking at the stat lines with Noah Fant and Drew Lock, I mean, 1 reception for 5 yards, 2 receptions for 10 yards, 1 reception for 4 yards. And then he had 2, those were in order. He had 2 receptions for 56 yards. Okay, I guess you get 7 points there. But one of the receptions went for 43 yards. It was just a broken play by the defense. And then he had 1 great game. It was his Houston game. And this is what I'm saying. If the Houston game never happened, nobody would be pumped about this offense. But 4 receptions for 113 yards. That's great. Still only 4 receptions. Like, you're going to need him to break tackles, to get so many yards after contact and after the catch off of 1 and 2 receptions every game. I'm not feeling him.
Yeah. As I obviously threw him into that crap pile of like, you don't want Fant. You guys pretty much know how I feel about him. So
he's an uber talented tight end.
Yeah.
He'll be good in his career. I just don't think
not
so.
Yet.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really on this train at all. They also have the rookie that they drafted. I am going to butcher his name. Albert.
Oh.
Sure. Bunham. Oakwee Bunham.
I just call him because I will never be able to say his last name.
I mean, this guy's a monster. He's 6'5", 258. Coming out of Missouri. I like him a lot in Dynasty. But I feel like they need to get something going here, and with everything going on this year, I just don't know how this offense is really gonna pan out. I think they're gonna rely heavily on their defense again, and kind of go from there. So I'm off a Fant too.
And usually when we see breakout tight ends, it's because the offense desperately needs pass catching weapons because they don't have them. Yeah. And that's not what we have at all in this offense.
There's plenty of guys that can catch the ball here in Denver. It's just which one's going to get the 2 receptions for 8 yards this week.
Backs.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right. Well, that is it for the AFC West preview. Michelle, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts. It was great stuff. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you on the internet and everything you got going on.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me. This was a blast, and saying blast, I say blast all the time now, and I'm like, it always reminds me of our brand name, but my wife and I have a Ball Blast podcast. It's about fantasy football, and we're a little bit more redraft focused, but we definitely get into the rookies and dynasty values throughout the off season. You can find all of our articles and podcasts on ballblastfootball.com. If you're just looking for the podcast, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the good stuff. It's Ball Blast, one word. You can find all of my tweets. I tweet all the time. I put a lot of my work just into Twitter threads, but you can find that at BallBlastEm, BallBlastEM. And I think that's about it. My wife, Kate, you can find her at FF Ballblast, and she writes for Roto World. They're starting back up here now after quarantine and all that good stuff with COVID. But you can find her articles on Roto World starting next week.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on. It was great conversation, and enjoyed having you with us.
Yeah, thanks again.
All right, have a good night.
Bye.
All right.
All right, AJ, that's it. We could wait for my next pick, but who knows how long it'll take, so no point. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to have Hurst. I feel like that kind of rounds out like the core of my team. I might be able to snag another good receiver here and feel really, really good about it. My second tight end can be just kind of a shot in the dark. There's a bunch of guys like late. Like if I take Jarwin as my second tight end, I'm way more happy about it than my first. So it's just one of those like I'm utterly shocked at the teams here that did not take a tight end right now that need one. In a tight end premium league, I get it. It's not as desperate this year as it was last year, but I'm actually just quite shocked. There's another team who just took his third quarterback and has only one running back. He took 4 receivers. I was like, I'm utterly baffled by some of the draft strategies here. But hey, this is the type of league where random things like that will work. So. Who knows? I'm definitely not getting a good third quarterback, as the 28th quarterback has now been taken by round 8. And I was not one of those teams that grabbed a third quarterback.
8. Okay.
Yeah,
so
Philip Rivers just went. I'm not getting a good third quarterback, period. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to have to take a shot on somebody who could be a backup, and hopefully it works. Worked for me last year with Fitz. And it worked really well for me last year with Fitzpatrick. And I keep saying Fitzgerald. I did that on another show too. Fitzpatrick. So we'll see how that works out. I'll go after some of these backups for quarterbacks who are kind of on the fence to get the full season of playing time.
Yeah,
possibly a Herbert.
I mean, that's kind of where you got to look at this point. If you're beyond the known starters, you got to try to go with one of these guys that you think's going to have X amount of games, and hopefully it's one of the games where your other quarterback is on a bye.
Yeah, wow, that really got away from me. Like I wasn't kind of fun because I took Stafford in the 4th round with as QB 12.
Yeah,
and then like it really just kind of got away from me. Like I forgot there was this huge QB run around 5. Where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks was taken, and then it's just been kind of sprinkled in, so it just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah,
but quickly, like, wait,
we've quietly gotten up to QB 20 through 7. We're through 707 right now.
We had 7-1, and then 7-11 was QB 25, and so 3 more have been taken, and one of those teams got Cam as their second quarterback. So, and he had Matt Ryan as his first.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in my league now has 2 quarterbacks except for 3 teams.
Huh.
One of them still has yet to draft a quarterback.
Whoa.
All right. He's got Thomas, Sanders, Gurley, Gordon, Cooper, Amari Cooper, and then Dobbins. So he's clearly just punting quarterback. I would think he's got 2 picks coming up here soon though. So I feel like he's got to get at least one.
Probably thought that a long time ago, but you never know.
I thought maybe he was going to grab one when he went Cooper, but well, that was 5. I kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say started a receiver run, but maybe. I took Robinson at my 402, wrapped around at 411, wrapped around at 502, and then paired him with Galladay. And then we had DJ Moore go 2 picks later. Then we had a run of Kupp, Beckham, Cooper, and Ridley. And then the turn. So we've had a bunch of receivers since then too. You know, Thielen, Schuster, AJ Brown, and then Woods right before my Ingram pick. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, our
league's
division
so different,
is
man.
Your
league was super running back heavy. I know that, but
God, I mean, we're already at
crazy.
running back 32. I took Hunt as running back 30, and he's my second running back.
I feel like you're way ahead of me on that. Yeah, we've gotten through 29, and we're around ahead of you, so that's pretty funny. So
we're through 32. Geis went right after me, then Carr, and then Dame Williams.
Yeah. So all right, well, Jeff's yelling at us to end it because he's on the clock. Do you want to make your pick on the show? Because you're yelling at me to make my pick, Jeff.
Yeah, let's go.
Come on, man.
I want your opinion, Jeff.
It's cool. I don't care.
No, just
do it.
Just keep talking.
Whatever, man.
All right.
It's still closing.
Cool. I'm going to open a beer. Just keep talking.
Dude, you just win the 8th round of mine. Told you QB 28. I'm done. Like, I am not getting another QB.
Yeah.
I'm not buying the Jarwin train quite yet. I feel like the offense change there is going to be murderous for the tight end, but I get it. I think you got to go Gronk, man. Just go big. It's Doyle then.
From PFF's chart.
Yeah. No. I don't know if you can though. Go to your grid because you're sharing your screen with us.
Yeah.
Go to your grid.
Go to
your grid. So go to draft in there in the toolbar, and then click on your division, and then click on grid.
Yeah.
You can see everybody's team. So you can see how many people have 2 tight ends. Not a lot. There's gonna be people taking their second tight end.
1. Yeah, because you guys have had a lot of receivers.
You gotta get one.
I would say
you gotta get one.
Oh man, you got robbed with that run right ahead of you. That sucked.
Yeah, I like
Gesicki. I like Goddard too. I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen with Djax yet.
Yeah, I just read something right before the show that they're trying to like work it out with him. They're not trying to.
I don't think they will. But... Yeah.
Yeah. I just think, dude, if you do,
because their receivers are the freaking bus drivers for COVID closed schools and grocery baggers and college offshoots. I mean, Craig Ward was phenomenal for them last year, and nobody knew who the fuck he was before he even put a jersey on. Guy was a goddamn all-star. If the all-star game...
Yeah. I'd go, you know what, honestly, I'd either go running back tight end here or receiver tight end here. You got to get at least one of those tight ends. Just you got to get one of those guys who has like the potential to be a tight end one just because he's a good guy. And then you take the stat later at like an Irv Smith or something just because. Like that's what you can do.
The downside of Jarwin is the fact that there's so many solid receivers there and Zeke, but I mean, they're rating in fourth on this PFF chart that I have, as far as strength of schedule. And their playoff weeks, they're against the 9th rated team in week 12, 25th in week 13, so that hurts. But then the first, ranked team, 14, 30th again, 15.
Jeff, you got to go to 4 owners and draft up top, very up top. MFL is so weird, but I've been on it for years, so I kind of know where to go.
Yeah, I finally have a pretty damn good grasp on it because I have a handful of leagues on it. Finally,
I just think like you don't have to take them right now, but you got on this turn, you got to grab one of them.
I would almost grab 2 though. Oh, dude, I don't like any of these guys. Well, Slayton's still there
with Cam back. Kind of like Edelman. As a sneaky wide receiver 3 who could be wide receiver 2, kind of like Edelman. I get it. What are you going to take 2 tight ends instead?
I mean, I do like Doyle. Dude, Disley.
I don't know if this is going to play.
Do you think they're going to play Olsen? Hollister's been good. I mean, Jonnu's still there, dude. Jonnu's been getting hyped like nobody's business this year. And
I think it's going to be good.
Tennessee's got a really nice playoff schedule again. See, I'm all about looking at the playoffs because I just assume I'm going to make them.
Everything's going to change, by the way, by the time we get there. The teams that we think are bad are going to be 100%. Good, vice versa, by the time that happens. So I don't read too much. I just pick good players. But, all right, man, you guys put me on the spot. I took hers. Who's it going to be, man? Give you our opinion.
Of course,
dude.
He's cut weight. They're not going to keep Gronk in to block.
No, hell no.
There's no way in hell.
He
came
from Brady,
Tampa Bay. With
the only problem is he's got that week 13 bye, so you've got to get to the playoffs to not get killed by him, or you've got to get the bye week. But you can take, but you're going to take a tight end a second.
You only have to start one tight end though. So you can find somebody at that point.
You'll find somebody else.
You could have Disley and Hollister's injury replacement by then, or you could take Albert O from Denver. Maybe him and nice. what's his nuts? Locke figure it out. Are you kidding me? He's from Springfield, Illinois. I mean, okay. Is he a Simpson? Can he change his name to Simpson since he's from Springfield? Well, yeah, he played at Missouri, though. Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, I like that guy a lot, but again, not necessarily for this year. And not for this tournament. Oh no! I'm not saying draft him now, but I mean there's guys there. There's guys there that
Spike. Yes, do it. Yeah.
That's
absolutely the pick, man. That was absolutely the pick. You can't play it safe here, man. Gronk's got the upside of like a top 3-4 tight end if he can get right. That's exactly why Edelman's awesome. Are you kidding me? because Edelman just catches 3-yard passes nonstop. Catches 115 of them every year.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's. You want to go tight end, man? I have no issue with you. I literally have no issue with you going tight end. I really don't. But I do like.
But see, Jarwin's another name that's out there that people are on, later. Don't we though? I mean, he's been, a name in Dallas for a few years. I mean,
wow, but they brought back Witten last year, and that kind of screwed things up.
That just pushed him back down, and now Witten's gone again. Well, that's what I'm saying. Jonnu's still out there. I mean, Jonnu doesn't have as favorable as a schedule as Dallas, according to this chart. Again, shit changes, but Jonnu's playoff schedule, again, got to get there. He starts rough, but then week 5 to 10 is nice, or 5 through 9 is nice. He's got 3 tough weeks. But then the playoffs, again, he's in good shape until week 16. He kind of has a tougher matchup. And I don't know who these teams are. It's just I'm just going off the numbers on EFF.
Boom.
God, he's way ahead.
I mean, come on. I don't need projections to tell you these things. I kind of just know. I'm kidding. I don't here, but I mean,
top 5 ranker is telling you what to do. Pay attention.
Any idea, how many times I've owned Julian Edelman in leagues like this because everybody just sleeps on him and he's phenomenal. I was off of him completely. While Stidham was there. Cam gets there.
Edelman. Right.
I want him all the time now. Wide receiver 3? That's crazy.
He's your wide receiver 3?
That's amazing. He's a wide receiver 2. Guaranteed.
Got it. All right.
Dude, I'm
taking it.
I secretly love your team, dude. It's Dak's awesome. Carr is severely underrated in this format. Carson, I don't think he will be. I think he'll be a QB2. Carson is also a severely underrated running back in this format. Connor could be good with Big Ben. Obviously, we know Cook is amazing. I love Gallup. Hilton is one that I'm semi-worried about, but I love Edelman. Honestly, Hilton and Gronk are my 2 picks, but only because Gronk might get hurt 3 games into the season. So could Hilton. That's it. That's the only reason why I don't like those picks. But if they're healthy, they're good. But if they're healthy, they're good. That's the thing with them. They're both injury prone like crazy. So that's my only issues with them. Otherwise, they're phenomenal when they're on the field. So. So I'm going to tell you it kind of was, but I get it though. But I'm telling you, he's going round 5, round 6 in a lot of leagues. You might not have gotten him because he also goes in round 4 in a bunch of leagues too. Yeah. But the guy who actually went 0 running back, in my league, Elvin Ryan, he I was sitting there going, I'm looking at and there's 4 picks before me, and I see this guy's up, and I'm like, oh man, Chris Carson's there. And then I look at his team and I go, damn, he hasn't taken a running back yet. He's taking Carson. And then boom, it happens. And I'm like, dude, you got a massive steal, and you got lucky as hell. That guy's, I don't know why. And then as soon as I said it in the draft chat, everybody goes, is he gonna play? Is he gonna play this year? Is his hip good? And I'm like, that's what everybody was afraid of. You guys let this guy fall that far. And granted, I was one of them, but I had my running backs, lined up. I was good. I had Drake and Miles Sanders, and I know you're not a Sanders fan, but I'm taking Sanders over Carson. See, I think Drake's gonna be fine. That offense is catered to his. I don't know how Chase Edmonds beats him out, but okay. Maybe I'll take Chase Edmonds much later just to be Chase.
I might have to just to have a random like starting running back on a given bye week.
Yeah. So. You could probably get him there almost in every league, but whatever. All right. Well, we need to finish this up. That was good. I like having this live conversation stuff. Let people into our insights and what we're thinking here. So, all right, AJ, we're gonna close it out. Cheers to you. Thanks to Michelle for coming on.
Cheers.
And
thanks again at Ball Blast EM.
Next week, start the NFC, baby. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, I'll keep trying.